Welcome to the Emotional Balance Sheet, the go-to podcast for parents with multiple kids, especially those with twins, triplets, or more, who are navigating the maze of modern family life and personal finance. Whether you're overwhelmed by education or retirement planning, parenting dilemmas, career transitions, or trying to define your purpose and plan, we're here to guide you with empathy, encouragement, and expertise. Hosted by Paul Fenner, founder of Tama Capital, a certified financial planner and parent to 4 kids, including a set of triplets. Our podcast is your ally in the quest for financial peace of mind, proving that money matters, but family comes first. Subscribe now and join our community of empowered parents at tamacapital.com. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Clients of Tama may retain positions in the securities discussed in this podcast.
What does comprehensive financial planning even mean? At Tama Capital, it means a family office where lifestyle planning such as retirement, college, portfolio management, and tax prep and planning are all under one umbrella. But it goes beyond numbers. We focus as much on the emotional side of financial planning as we do on the financial side. We get you. We understand your challenges of building a family, business or career, and a healthy life. We are devoted to wealth planning for families like yours because we are you. Learn how our family can help your family by visiting tamacapital.com. Have you ever set a goal and wondered, why is this really important to me? Or did you set an objective and lose your motivation while trying to achieve it? I have the pleasure of welcoming back to the show Professor Ayelet Fishbach, Distinguished Service Professor of Behavioral Finance and Marketing at the University of Chicago. Ayelet is also a motivational scientist and the author of one of the best books, Get It Done: Surprising Lessons from the Science of Motivation. I also let know that she's also known as the godmother of motivation. Ayelet sheds light on the low correlation between wealth, happiness, and success, and emphasizes the importance of knowledge over sheer willpower. We discuss the role of situational awareness and the art of reframing to navigate obstacles and stay on track with your goals. Throughout our conversation, Ayelet shares actionable strategies for reframing discomfort as growth, anticipating obstacles, and continuously refining our understanding of what drives us. So whether you're facing financial decisions or personal growth challenges, parenting challenges, we identify strategies to help align your goals and objectives with your life's purpose in this conversation. Please enjoy my conversation with Professor Ayelet Fishbach. Well, Ayelet Fishbach, thanks for coming back to the Emotional Balance Sheet podcast. It's been a few years, I think.
I cannot even remember. It's good to be back, Paul.
Yeah, and sometimes I wish that I record, and I probably say this often, but I don't necessarily record our getting back in acquaintance mode like some podcasters do. But I think people would find that interesting, all the things that we're talking about behind the scenes with our kids and what's going on with your 3 kids. And it's just always great catching up. But I love reading your work. I know you've been on before, but for our audience, a great place to find Ayelet's work on motivation, goals, you name it, is on LinkedIn. That's, I think, how I first got connected with you, probably through Katie Milkman as well. But, audience, definitely go to LinkedIn, connect with Ayelet. You're in for a real treat today because we're going to cover her book that's for at least the people on the YouTube channel that can see us. Get It Done, Ayelet's book. How long ago has that been out now?
That's been a couple of years.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, it never gets old
long
for me because I reread it at least once a year.
Thank you. Yes, it's been fun to connect to people by writing this book.
So where I kind of want to pick up in my area of being a financial advisor and working with so many families that have, no shortage of multiple personal and financial priorities pulling at them. The challenge that I see with busy families, and as I just mentioned, like you have 3 kids, 2 of yours are pretty much grown adults now, and you still have a little one at home, but it's dealing with motivation to try to make a change, whether or not that change needs to happen. So, it could be within somebody's career, relationships. So rather than seeing, these obstacles as fuel to create strategies, we almost see them as roadblocks. And unfortunately, right now, I have several families that have gone through a job transition where their position was eliminated. And I have probably just as many people that would love to change jobs or careers, but really, I don't know if it's a lack of motivation, but they have a real struggle on taking that first step to make a change. And I figured now is as good a time as any to have you back on to talk about this, because I don't know if you've heard this or not, but I can't remember who I heard it from, but somebody has referred to you as the godmother of motivation. Did you know that?
Wow, that's let's stop here. Okay, I got what I came here, like right. But let me refer to what you're saying. With many people thinking about job transition, maybe forced to have some transition, or maybe that's a dream. The data is definitely with you. That is, we have about half of the employees in the US right now looking for a new job. We see motivation very generally low in the workplace. So people say that they are unhappy at work on more frequently and a higher percentage than what we are used to in just national surveys. People also report just not feeling good at their job. Around 20% of employees in the US report feeling angry at work. And anger is a strong emotion, right? It's now going to work expecting to be angry there. That is probably a good reason to think about change. And the change can either be change your workplace, okay, find something else, or change the way you do your work, okay, change the task that you work on, change your relationship with the people there. My worry is that often when we get into the cycle of constantly switching jobs, we are not aware of what is it that we are looking for in the next job, and we will be just as disappointed by the next one. And life is just a constant stress of trying to find something, not quite being sure what is it that I look for. And so, yes, there is a lot that we can do to be better at understanding what is it that we are looking for at work, and can we get it in our current job, or should we switch? Is this the right time to switch?
So how does somebody take a step back and get to where you're suggesting, is figuring out like what they really want to do? I think that's where, and I don't know if this is a cross between motivation and lack of time. I'm not sure. That's where I still struggle with how can I help people in having conversations about obviously their careers, which is a big impact on their financial life, is helping them to find that place or give them the gift of time to take a few moments and think about what it is that they really want to do. And I don't think many people probably even know, if they did have the time, how to even do that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. There are 3 basic needs that people have at work. One is obvious, right? It's the financial need. Okay, we go to work because we need to put the bread on the table. Okay, so clearly this is a big one. There's also the social aspect, we connect to people at work and we connect to other people through our profession. Our profession often defines who we are, okay? And that influences our social connections way outside at work, but also at work. And then the third need is growing yourself, okay? Doing something interesting, doing something that is meaningful, that is new, having some variety in life, feeling that you make progress, okay? You are going somewhere. The ideal job has all three. Okay? It helps you pay your rent or your mortgage. It is something that is meaningful. You're growing, and you get a social connection. You're connecting to people through your profession. For many people, one of these things or more are missing. And then often it's a conversation that you need to have with yourself or with a good friend to understand what is it that I'm missing. Okay, I might have a wonderful job. I feel like I'm doing the most important thing in the world, okay, but I cannot afford my kids' college tuition. Okay, and so no, something is missing. I might have a job that makes me feel financially comfortable, but I feel very isolated there. We know now that isolation is a big problem with our jobs because many people are working from home, which means that it's very hard to create a connection. If you think about us as humans and our evolution, we have never worked in isolation.
Right.
Okay? We did all work as a group. Okay? We work with other people. And so the idea that you will sit there by yourself for many hours every day, create social isolation, gets people to feel that something is missing. Well, if this is missing, then either your current job should allow you to have more social interactions or you need to switch. Basically, be flexible at understanding that there are different needs. And if one of them is missing, well, that's where you need to put the work.
Is in your research over all these years on motivation, do you find that motivation is like a muscle, like you can train it, like you can make it stronger, or does it not like work like that at all?
No. The answer is no. Now, it's interesting to note that the field of motivation was very much into this metaphor for many years. Okay, and so back to work by Walter Michel on the marshmallow test, which I'm sure people have heard of. If not, quick reminder, a child sits in front of one marshmallow. If they don't eat it and wait, then they will get two marshmallows later. And if they can wait, if they can hold themselves, presumably they will go up to be successful at at work, at life. They will make a lot of money and be happy forever. It turns out that correlations are very low and they are mainly driven by the kids' knowledge. That is, some kids know that they should wait. Some kids know that there are strategies that will enable them to wait, and these are the kids that do better. So getting out of the marshmallow test to more data that we have now about adults and how they go on pursuing their goals, it seems that knowledge matters more than what we refer to as willpower. Okay, so willpower, this like internal strength, okay, it what makes you stop when you really want to, I don't know, check your phone in the middle of a conversation, okay, or have another glass of wine. We don't think that willpower doesn't matter at all. Okay. But most of the variance in success is influenced by knowledge, okay, by whether you know what you're doing, right? Whether you know how to put yourself in situations that will help you get where you want to go, or you can reframe the situation. Okay. You can think about the same situation as more supportive of your goals or not. So to be more concrete here, let's think about parenting, often you know that what you need to do is get out the situation. Okay, you are too angry now to have a conversation with your child, so let's just not have it now. Okay, you change the situation. We will talk about it later. Okay, other times you reframe the situation. This argument that we have, this is not a conflict. This is teaching my son how to solve problems. Okay, this is educating my daughter. Okay, so reframing the way you think about this. This type of knowledge, how to change situations, how to reframe situations, predict success much more than willpower. And the good news is that knowledge is not something that anybody was born with. Okay, knowledge is something that we go through life and accumulate. And if we invest, we get more knowledge more quickly.
Have you found in your work and research how we can help increase our knowledge? Because I think like what you're talking about is reframing and awareness. And I swear that term awareness comes up in almost every conversation I have on this show with people in various different ways, whether they're a neurologist or a therapist or a professor like you. But how can people get better at reframing situations and becoming more aware to be able to increase that knowledge? Especially when you're having that argument with your child.
Yeah, there are many strategies. So I'm trying to think about some examples more than just reviewing everything. One strategy is to think about discomfort as an opportunity to grow. Okay, now let's admit it. If something makes us uncomfortable, we are not going to stick with it for a long time.
Yeah, we want to get rid of the pain as fast as possible.
Exactly. Okay. But many times the initial experience is discomfort. Okay. So there are many examples where you need to go through this period of discomfort, okay, or 5 minutes of discomfort in order to get the benefit that is coming very soon after. A difficult conversation with your child or with your spouse or with anybody else often has like this feature. Okay, it's going to be difficult. It's going to initially feel wrong. Okay, your instinct is going to say, "Move away." That's doesn't feel good. But then, if you reframe it as an opportunity to grow, you are going to stick with this a little bit longer. Let me give you an example, not from parenting. Okay, we did a study with an improvisation club here in Chicago, the Second City,
Second
where we
City.
encouraged. Yeah, so no, shout out to Second City for willing to work with us.
Just so we know, so people that don't know, audience listeners, Ayelet is a professor at the University of Chicago, in obviously Chicago, and Second City is a well-known comedy / improv theater, right? Club, right?
Yes.
Been there a few times.
So
it's awesome.
You see, we suffer from the problem that when we met before, and so we forgot the introduction, and I didn't say who I am. Yes, I am a social psychologist and a motivation scientist at the University of Chicago. Second City is an improv club. There are many actors that basically got their training there, but there are also regular people that just go there to learn how to present themselves, okay, to learn to feel more comfortable in presenting themselves. And we worked with these students, okay, these regular people like you and me that want to learn some improv. And I don't know if you ever tried improv, Paul, but it makes you feel very uncomfortable.
It does. It does.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So like the exercise that we worked with is that you need to walk around the room and kind of be interesting. Okay, you can like make some like voices. Okay, you can like dance, you can jump, whatever, and everybody is frozen in place looking at you. Okay, and so if that's not what you do for life, it's awkward.
Right.
Okay. What we told people is that their goal was to feel uncomfortable. Okay, and that feeling uncomfortable, it's a sign that they are learning, that they are developing. And we found that when we gave these instructions compared with another group that just had the goal to develop those skills with no specific instructions to feel uncomfortable, when we instruct people to feel uncomfortable, they hold the focus for longer. That is, they take more time presenting themselves, walking around the room. They are willing to engage in something that is not going to immediately feel good. So, going back to a difficult conversation, if we are having this conversation, expecting that it's not going to immediately feel good, but hopefully we can connect to our child or spouse or whoever over this and eventually be in a better place, then we take this immediate feedback of that doesn't feel good and understand it as, oh, this is working. Okay, my objective was to be in this spot where there is a bit of awkwardness and discomfort. I am there, therefore I'm doing well. So this is just a long way of explaining what reframing and mindfulness might entail.
No, I think that's a really excellent point and a really good example, because sometimes, what's the phrase, you know, feel the fear and do it anyways. I think I'm kind of paraphrasing that, but as much as we want to run from that pain or discomfort or uncomfortable conversation, if you will, if we can endure the first 5 minutes, you know, like your improv example, and people like looking at us funny as we're prancing around the room, then once you get to the other side of that, that's when you can start seeing a meaningful impact and change and progress.
Yeah. Feel comfortable to feel uncomfortable.
Perfect. One of the, in some of our emails going back and forth, I want to come back to this, is that you had mentioned this. Not only should obstacles be confused, not be confused with roadblocks, but these desires can often complement the most important goals people hold. Can you elaborate on that? Because I found that so fascinating, that because I think that going back to this thread that we're currently on with these pain points is that we see them as these, you know, obstacles that are roadblocks, but there's more to it than that.
Our obstacles often represent things that we would like to have, right? And so they're only obstacles with regard to another thing that is currently important for us. Okay, so let me give you the most trivial example. When we need to stay up, okay, either because we need to drive somewhere or we need to take care of a child that is awake at night. The obstacle is that we are tired. Okay, the obstacle is that we really want to be in bed sleeping. Now, this is not something that is illegitimate. Okay, like this is a basic need. We know for our mental health, we need to have a good night's sleep. So other than thinking about training myself to be sleepless, okay, what I need to do is to find a way to get enough rest time so that I can do the things that they are on my plate. Okay, now, no, sometimes the understanding that obstacles represent goals is less trivial. Okay, I might be tempted by unhealthy food. Okay, and maybe I'm tempted by like smokers. Okay, by cigarette. Okay, and these are things that I really don't want to do, but they represent something that is important for me in my life. Okay, this food that I don't want to eat, well, maybe I should not eat it, but I should enjoy food. Okay, I should enjoy my meals. Okay, maybe I should. Not maybe, for sure, I should not be a smoker. Okay, most smokers would like to quit, but there is some goal there. Okay, there is some relaxation that comes from it, and the relaxation needs to be part of my life. Understanding that when we face obstacles, there is often a goal conflict, and on the very general level, all goals need to be satisfied is important for being mindful, for understanding what I refer to in my research is your goal system. That is everything that you want to achieve in your life and how to find the right balance. And I can get into some data on this, but let me give it back to you.
So one of my questions on that is one of the things I'm a new strategy I'm working on with the families that I work with is trying to go through a process of identifying purpose and objectives or goals, but then coming up with a list of obstacles that could get in the way. Is that a good strategy to go in or to try?
Absolutely. Okay, so that what you do here is anticipate the obstacles so that there is a plan to overcome them. A lot of research on this. We did some studies in which we invited students, college students, to think about what might stand in the way of studying, okay, of preparing for some exam or doing the homework. And when they identify these obstacles, they were able to have a better plan. Okay, so they were able to allocate more time for studying and doing better and also finishing the work faster. A lot of work from Gabrielle Ottingen and Angela Duckworth on getting people to state a goal and then think about what stands in the way of this goal, okay, which allows you to now understand how am I going to do this? Okay, how do I get from here to there, given that there will be obstacles? Okay, so to see the connection between this and my previous answer, these obstacles often represent things that should be fulfilled and should be addressed, except not now. Okay, except not when I need to prepare for this thing in school or do this thing at work. And so I'm not saying that you just suppress it and say, I will never attend to this thing that I want to do. But at the moment, you need to be able to anticipate what is the problem and think about what will be the solution. How am I going to do it? If you don't know that there will be a problem, you're facing it with no preparation, and this is when we lose our temper, okay, or we lose our self-control.
So anticipating those potential obstacles, does the research show that like strengthens the goal or increases your motivation to do whatever you need to do to achieve that objective?
Yes, and not just increases your motivation. The research also shows that you will actually achieve more. Okay? That if you consider in advance what the problem is going to be, you are more likely to be able to do it than if you face the problem with no preparation. Let me give you some intuitive example. Okay,
this is fascinating because I'm like, I hopefully I'm not. This means I'm on the right track with the families I work with this strategy.
Good, yeah. So if I tell you that you are going to have a very stressful situation at work, you are less likely to lose your temper than if I don't tell you that this is going to be stressful, right? If you find yourself in a conflict for which you were not prepared, this is when we'll lose it. Okay, I thought that this is going to be an easy conversation, and all of a sudden you are being so stubborn and you don't see things my way. And how is this possible? If I could anticipate in advance that all has different perspective, okay, that we might not be on the same page, I'm going to prepare my arguments. I'm going to be more in control of my emotions, and things are going to be more smooth.
So I'm now that example sounds just like my wife Teresa would say to me. So I think you're onto something there. So let me step back and look at like really big picture. Ayelet, is why are objectives or goals even important? Because some people, I know when I first bring this up, because when people think of myself as a financial advisor, they typically think of numbers and portfolio management. That's like, I always call it the sexy part of what I do. But really where I want to get people initially focused and begin thinking, because I don't think many people give themselves the time to think about their purpose and their objectives and what they want to achieve. And so it's new to them. And I may have a hard time explaining like why this is important, but maybe you can shed light on that for us with the work that you've done. It is simply that, like, why should people have objectives and goals?
Okay, so every journey starts with a goal. Okay, and in my work, I look at goal setting as the first stage. Okay, then there is monitoring progress toward the goal. There is handling everything else and getting the social support, which are part 2, 3, and 4. But part 1 is set a goal. You need a goal because it's really hard to evaluate yourself if you don't know where you're going, what you're trying to achieve. Okay, then I'm sure you know that, but I believe that right now the average family in the US has around $8,000 in savings, which is barely enough to deal with the next financial crisis for the family. Okay,
Right.
like losing a job or having some health issue. We need to change that, and the way to change this is by setting some financial goals. Okay, by understanding where do I want to be, what will make me comfortable as a family. Okay, what will guarantee my long-term comfort. If we envision doing this without setting a goal, well, then I have a long life, hopefully, of trying to put money aside, and maybe it's enough, and maybe it's not, and it's not mindful, and it's probably not going to be sufficient. Okay, it's probably not going to bring me to a place where I know that I'm taking care of myself, okay, that I'm taking care of my family. My kids might, hopefully, they go to college, and oops, I did not plan for this. We will all retire, and oops, maybe there was no goal, there was no plan. And so you have to start by a goal. You have to then break it into sub goals. Okay, saving for retirement is a terrible goal.
Yes.
Because life happens between the time you set it and the time you look at your savings. So there has to be some annual savings. Annual
Don't you call that like the middle problem?
Yes, right. And I often refer to retirement as the ultimate middle problem. Okay, we start with a lot of motivation. Okay? Like here's like, I have a new job. Okay, I'm right out of school. I will save for retirement. When we get close to retirement, we are certainly concerned with that. But then life is in the middle, and there are so many other things, and we lose our attention. And like we see this for exercising, we see this for healthier eating. We even we ran a study in which we had people assign themselves to either a difficult or an easy task, but they did it 10 times and they could cheat. Okay, and so we found that nobody was cheating when they did the first task. Most of them did not cheat on the last task, but in the middle was when they cut corners, and some people were doing the easy task even though they were supposed to do the difficult task. So the middle is a real problem for us. Make middle short.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to figure that one out from a retirement planning standpoint. But in the book, you referenced some of the work that Katie Milkman did on, I forget the exact term, but bundling, like it's not temptation bundling, is it? Is that the word?
Yeah, it is. It is. Yes, it is temptation bundling. So I thought that you're going to go with the fresh start effect, which is also
that's a good one
Katie
too.
Milkman's. Yeah, so the first start is like, you start with a lot of motivation. Then toward the end, we have what we call the goal gradient effect. The last step we take enthusiastically, and in the middle we slack off. Temptation bundling, now you're moving to how can we make things feel good at the moment? How can we make people intrinsically motivated? That is feeling good about doing it.
Well, maybe we should actually
And
go back and have you explain the fresh start, because that may be more relevant to what we're talking about here in the middle. Because I think that's where a lot of people get
yes,
stuck, whether it's retirement, saving for college for their kids, saving for any kind of like financial savings goal. That's what I think a challenge.
yes, and the fresh start effect shows that we start with enthusiasm. Okay? We start our goals with a lot of motivation. We also use some markers of beginnings in order to adhere to our goals. And so
That could be like the first of the
comes
year,
January.
first of the month.
Yes.
Yeah. Birthday,
Yeah, right.
anniversary.
Exactly. Any marker that, okay, this is the beginning of the year for you. This is the beginning of the period. Okay, you just had your birthday. That leads people to be more enthusiastic about pursuing their goals. Okay, and so they meet with you. There is some new beginning. Okay, I will put my finances in order. Like that reflects a period of high motivation. We take advantage of this by often introducing fresh starts. We also need to be aware that this only works as long as you are at the start. You want to maintain your motivation also a month later, okay, or no, a couple of months later. And so, another research example, we find that consumption of healthy food is higher in
Of
January
course.
and then declines over the year. And so we use January to remind people, yes, you need to be eating well and you need to feed your kids with a healthy, nutritious food. But then the challenge is we also want you to eat well in February and March.
So, and I think, and now if we come back to that temptation bundling, I think this is like where like your work is so interesting because it combines, there's a lot of time between like what you're talking about here with fresh start, and then how do you kind of integrate like temptation bundling to be able to do that, like exercise, for example. Like if you start the new year like gangbusters going exercise, and then come February you're starting to dwindle, maybe that's where like how do you figure out how to do a temptation bundle to where like you're exercising and doing something fun at the same time?
Absolutely. And the temptation bundling strategy, which is a concept attributed to Katie Milkman, basically increases intrinsic motivation because we change the activity in a way that makes it feel good at the moment. Okay, so we take the exercise and we add music, we add TV, we make it fun. Okay, we make it something that feels good. That is, Caitlin Woolley and I ran a study some years back in a school, a middle school, in which we encouraged the teachers to make math class into a party. Okay, we introduced music and snacks and color pencils. The teachers were not too happy about it, but they played along. The kids were doing more math problems because it felt good, okay? Because it was more of a party, a math party, than a boring class that feels very similar to many other times that I was struggling to solve a problem. So we're trying to bring these immediate rewards and make it part of the activity so that the way we think about the activity is more intrinsically motivating, is more fun, is more immediately gratifying. We can do it with almost everything.
So the last thread I want to pull on, and because I know I only have you for a finite period of time, but is to come back to the objective and goal. In your work, do you find when people are thinking about objectives and goals, if they can tie a strong purpose or why to it, how does that like enhance their motivation to achieve that objective or goal? Because that's the other thing that I try to tie in with my work is is really is trying to set the why first, the purpose, and then
Mhm. Yes.
figuring out those objectives that support that purpose or why.
That's a great strategy. In general, we have greater motivation when we think about our goals more abstractly. And the simple way of doing it is just ask why. Okay, why do you do this? Okay, so you save for retirement. Why? Okay, because I want to feel comfortable when I retire. Okay, why? Why is it important for you? Okay, we want people to ask why up to the point where it no longer connects to the action, and then go a little bit down and ask the how question. Okay? And so if eventually someone says, well, I want to do it because that will make me happy, well,
Not good enough.
the happy might not be quite connected to an action.
Yeah.
And so go down a level. So it still connects to, let's say, saving for retirement. In general, asking why, thinking more abstractly, will increase motivation. It also does another thing, which is helping you see the connection between your different goals. Let me again give you an example. I often have college students telling me that it's either that they stay up all night and finish their homework, or that they will fail in school. Okay, so there is really, in their perception, if you want to be successful in school, you have to do work all night. Now I go one level up, okay, and let's be a bit more abstract and let's think about what's important for you in life. Mental health, okay, which is getting sleep, and success in school, academic success. Do you really think that mental health and academic success are in conflict? Well, clearly no, right? Like clearly to be successful in school, you need to be in a good place in terms of your mental health and vice versa. Okay. If you're successful, you will feel good about yourself. And so what seems to be in conflict on the lower level actually is completely congruent and in harmony when you ask the why questions.
Well, this has been a fascinating conversation. I love, having these conversations with you. I love reading your work. Typically, my closing question is, what's the best thing about being a parent? But since you've already been on and answered that, I'm going to twist it a little bit. Like, you've had this incredible long tenure as a professor and done amazing work. The book, Get It Done, is amazing. So what is the best thing about being a professor?
Wow. By the way, I have no idea what I said about parenting last time. So I'm still thinking in my, but I will say what is really nice about being a professor. It's a job that by definition requires that you will keep learning. So you're always developing. You're never quite there. And I wish all jobs were like this. I wish all jobs were the kind of jobs that you never quite master it, that you always have something new to learn, because it really keeps you engaged and just fulfilled at work.
Well, I think that is an excellent way to wrap up this conversation. Professor Ayelet Fishbach, I can't thank you enough for being back on the show, and I'll try to make sure that we do this at least annually, because I think the work that you do touches the lives of so many people, especially around what I do as a financial planner or advisor, and the work that I do with families. So I think it's terrific. And again, is the best place for people to find your work is to follow you and connect with you on LinkedIn? Would that be?
Yes, I almost always post new findings on LinkedIn, and then I hope that some people will choose to read Get It Done.
All right. Well, thank you very much for being on again, and I'm already looking forward to our next conversation.
I do too. Thank you.
As you could probably tell, I am a huge fan of Professor Ayelet Fishbach. I think the reason why is the work that she does around motivation and thinking about objectives and goals has such a strong tie into the work that I do here at TAMA as a financial advisor. And so some of the key takeaways for me were that motivation is not a muscle you can build. It's not willpower. And I think that what Ayelet brought up was that knowledge and reframing are more crucial for motivation than willpower alone. And she brought up that great example of middle problems, saving for retirement, potentially even saving for college for your kids are two great examples of that. Those are really long time frames. And so you start out great, you have a lot of motivation, and then you get into that middle period where it really wanes, and then towards the end you kind of get this another rush of motivation to see the goal through. But we can get really stuck in the middle, and that's where she had a lot of great examples about this fresh start concept where you're reminding yourself of why you're doing things, at some milestones, whether it's the first of the month, an anniversary, a birthday, the first of the year. And then we also talked about temptation bundling, maybe a little bit harder for savings, but a goal like exercise, you're exercising while also listening to this podcast or watching a show on Netflix or something like that. And I think another key point I want to bring out, which is something I'm trying to put into practice at TAMA and working with families, is anticipating obstacles in order to help achieve objectives and maintain this strong level of motivation. Life is not linear. There are going to be ups and downs. And so if we can try to anticipate some of these obstacles and knowing it's not going to be a straight line up, I think it can really help us from a perspective, motivation, and really trying to achieve what we're after. And just to close, one of the topics we talked on last was this idea of connecting your why to your objective. In practice at TAMA, I talk a lot about purpose and objectives when I first start working with families. And so that I found was to some degree reassuring that Ayelet's work and research really supports that. Having a firm understanding of your why really enhances or increases your probability of achieving your objective. That's all for this week. We'll see you next time. Now that you've made it to the end of another great conversation, are you looking for more? If so, head over to tamacapital.com, where you will find all of our conversations. Use the search feature to find the topic or guest you would love to learn more about. Also, don't forget to make someone else's day by sharing our show. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.